Hello, welcome to this week's YouTube show. I have got a jam-packed show for you this week. Got three guests covering all manner of things. We have got the wonderful Amelia Warner coming up talking about her brand new EP Haven. We have Himesh Patel coming up talking about many things including Tenet, Yesterday and his new BBC drama The Luminaries. But first up, the wonderful Orlando Weeks, who I'm a huge fan of, have been since he was in the Maccabees, who still are one of my favourite bands. Very sad moment when the band broke up, as you'll hear us talk about in this interview, but Orlando took a little bit of time to then go on and start writing his own stuff, be that first off with this brilliant project called Gritterman, and now with his debut solo album A Quickening, which is out now and is gorgeous. So let's crack into it. Here we go, the fabulous Orlando Weeks.
All right.
Yeah. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, you know. Congratulations on the record, mate. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh,
Thank you.
so gorgeous. And what was the thing that made you make that decision though? That because obviously after I think the last time I saw you in person, I apologise again. I was probably in tears at that show at Ali Pali. After the show, which was, I was talking to someone about it the other day, and we were both there, and I was saying I was going to be talking to you, and then we were like that. Oh my God, do you remember that night?
Yeah.
It was so extraordinary. It was like, oh, so like kind of, you know, that sort of like a bittersweet moment, but going on and doing Gritterman and how amazing that was in terms of, it was this wonderful thing that allowed you to encompass so many of the kind of creative outlets that you have, you know, with your artistry and your, you know, the illustrations on that and the storytelling and then the songs as well, and having someone like Paul come in and do that, and then making the decision that it was then you were going to do a solo record. And this solo record was, you know, based around impending fatherhood, and then with Milk Breath, you know, that you know, such a great song. What was the thing that made you go, I'm gonna write about this? I think I could write an album, or I could write a collection of songs about this experience. Was it that kind of decisive?
What I was doing anyway was writing. After Gritterman, we did a concert the Christmas of 2017, and as soon as that was done, I felt like a huge relief, because I just was so desperate for that to work and make sense, and I felt like it did. And it was a huge amount of work actually for one gig to learn the whole thing, get Paul in a position where he was comfortable, and take a punt on the venue, like all of those things that everyone's doing all the time, but just felt enormous.
Yeah.
So that went all right, and then I started writing a lot straight after that, and over that Christmas and over the New Year, and we knew we were expecting, and I think just everything I wrote would come back to that. It was sort of unavoidable, and eventually I felt like there were enough. I didn't have Milk Breath, but I had things like St. Thomas's and Safe and Sound and all the things. Like I had a bunch of them quite early on.
Yeah.
Not finished, but enough there to feel like this is worth carrying on with. And then just thinking, and then speaking to my partner about it, and just and also being aware that that's where my head was at. So I just sort of carried on letting it lead me, really. And yeah.
Amazing.
That was it.
Yeah. Easy. Done. Boom. Album.
Boom, album. But it took almost 18 months after that to really finish everything. Like to have those initial things, like Milk Breath was that happened, like around 3-4 weeks after my son was born, And then after that, I carried on writing bits and pieces, but nothing made it into the record. Now this endless flow passes your way.
Did you write it on piano, most of it?
Yeah, almost. I think, yeah, everything was written on piano apart from, there's a song on there called Moon's Opera, which was originally written in a session, or like the start of it was in a Young Colossus session. It still feels like a novelty to me. I spent so long writing guitar songs, and also writing songs to fit, to some extent, to fit within the framework of a band and our back catalogue, and so to essentially have, for the first time ever, be sat at an instrument. I'm still, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can make it sound fine, and but also to be free, to be working on as clean a slate as I have ever had, and with 10 years or 12 years of sort of writing and sort of songwriting knowledge now, as opposed to the very early days of starting with a guitar and feeling that freedom.
Yeah.
So I still have that kind of just feels fresh.
Would you be out now playing the record live, do you think?
The plan was to find definitely somewhere in London, definitely somewhere in a couple of other cities across the UK, and set up, exhibition sounds too grand, but just a display of all the visual work that has gone into making the record.
Yeah.
And then do essentially have a sort of residency there, playing songs in not a very big room, but for a few nights back to back, that people can come to if they want, and have some beers and whatever. And that was going to be really. I don't know. Yeah, I can say it. I think I was super excited about that, and I was really sad that didn't happen. That's not to say we won't figure out a way of doing that down the line, but it was. I still feel like that would have been such a nice way to sort of call time on the amount of work and getting to play the songs in and around that work.
It's not that long ago, you know what I mean? But being part of like Maccabees and making that decision to kind of, call it a day when you're on, a high is such a brilliant thing to do. I think it's like so many people would have taken the easy way out, and that very much felt like it wasn't an easy way out, but it was the right way out. But just allowing yourself to kind of reflect on what you did as a band, over those records, and seeing, in those last shows as well, just seeing how much joy there was in the faces of those crowds and stuff, in terms of, have you had a moment to allow yourself to reflect on that at all?
Well, we did a listening party with Tim Burgess as part of his series. So we did, we listened back together to Given to the Wild.
Amazing.
And that felt like, I mean, of course, we're listening back all together, so there's a bit of kind of reflection there. I think it's a better record than I remembered, which is a nice feeling. And I thought it was a good record. I just, there were songs on there that I completely forgot existed. Because I just don't go into that world very, like into
today I'm going to listen to
but things like, there's a song on there called Heave that I'd forgotten was there, and I thought that's really good. So I enjoyed that a lot, and I enjoyed the kind of the sort of re-firing up of the band WhatsApp group in the run up to that. So, sorry. But yeah.
I like how you just went there for a second. You're like, someone's message flashed in front of your face there.
No, to be honest, I remember the photo that's the icon for the group is the photograph of us all and our manager at a wedding, and it's a very silly.
I'm glad you had that moment to do that as well. It's because I don't imagine many bands kind of do that. Do you know what I mean? Where they sort of congregate to, and that's the lovely thing that Tim's been doing as well. And to be able to do it with you guys, I think was a brilliant thing. I really hope, when it gets to the point where we can go and watch live music in some capacity and stuff, that I'm really excited to see this all kind of come to life live as well, but just as a record to listen to. It's a wonderful companion, particularly in kind of what we're going through now. So yeah, massive congratulations, mate. Really lovely to chat to you. Yeah,
thank you very much.
Take care, stay safe.
Likewise.
Particularly on your bike.
That's right. Send my love to you a lot.
I will, for sure. Rudy turned 12 last week, just to make you,
Wow.
Do you remember when you lot babysat him backstage at Barcelona?
I remember that. I remember him doing bigger and bigger stair jumps at that amazing venue in Paris that has that, like,
where the floor moves.
La Cigale, something like that.
Yeah.
And you guys were headlining that, and we were supporting, and I'm just doing like one step, and then I'm going to do 2 steps. And you're watching that thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 steps.
Where's the local hospital? Where's the A&E? We might need this.
Yeah. That's so funny because I went there. We went there as a family, just like as a holiday in the summer, I think, and it, like end of the summer, so like October or something, and that's what I think about when I walk past that venue, and that's what I think about is us and editors and you.
Winter Sleep, was that the Winter Sleep show as well?
Winter Sleep, yeah. So it's like I don't have many of those things, but in Paris, that's when I walk past there, that's what I think about. It's nice.
Oh man, yeah, Dawn, you're gonna make me cry. It's so lovely to chat to you. Take care, love. I hope to see you soon. Right. And thanks for your time, Orlando. Bye, my darling. Memories with Orlando Weeks. Great. The album is out now, A Quickening. Please do go and check it out. It's absolutely brilliant. And I really look forward to the time where we can get out and watch live music, because that sounds like it's a show I definitely want to catch. Right, Himesh Patel, I think we all first kind of definitely recognised his brilliant talent way back in EastEnders. And Himesh has gone on to do a fantastic collection of things. One particular thing I'm very much looking forward to over the next, I think, August, it's now been announced as the release date for Christopher Nolan's Tenet in cinemas. Can't wait for that. We'll get to that later on in the interview, but first I want to talk to you about Luminaries with Himesh, which is this new BBC drama based on the Eleanor Catton novel, which she's also done the screenplay for this as well. And I don't want to tell you too much about the story and the background to it. You'll see the trailer in the interview and you'll hear Himesh talk about it a little bit. But it was great to sit down and chat to him about this brilliantly exciting and varied career that he's carving out for himself. So sit down and enjoy the wonderful Himesh Patel. How you doing, Himesh?
I'm really good. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, really good. Been loving watching the Luminaries.
Oh, great. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
3 episodes in, and it's a really weird comparison, but it's like an onion.
Yes, that's a really good companion, actually. Yeah.
I love it. I really, really love it. I think it's fantastic. Was it a kind of page jumper for you when you read the script, first of all?
It was, yeah. It was really because of those tantalizing threads that you get from the beginning, so it was really, I wanted to know more, and I wanted to explore the character more, because I chimed with Emery from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was really exciting to kind of go on the journey and then see the story unfold. I mean, if you're 3 episodes in, you've got 3 fantastic episodes to go. It's gonna really ramps up in that last half. Yeah.
Think of the sky like a looking glass. What you see is who you are.
Welcome to the new world.
Mr. Emery Staines.
Miss Anna Weatherall.
It's a dirty business digging for gold. Did he die or was he killed? A single moment, everything can change.
There was a kind of magic between us.
Where is Emery?
You killed him.
How?
Do you know the penalty for murder, Miss Weddle?
Did you get much of a chance to go and explore New Zealand then, or was it pretty, I guess it's pretty tight schedule and stuff?
There was tight schedule, but I did have a couple of moments to go to the Bay of Islands, which is about 3-4 hours north of Auckland. It's a really important place in New Zealand's history because there's a place there called Waitangi, and there was a big treaty signed there between the Maori people and the European settlers, which is still in dispute to this day, really, because it was written in Maori and it was written in English, and there's differentiation in the language used, which means that there's still a bit of kind of conflict between those two kind of parties. But I like to think she seems to be doing a lot of other stuff, right? So hopefully Jacinda Ardern can kind of be the one to bring those two things together. But I think generally New Zealand has a really wonderful respect for the indigenous culture, and though there is, as I say, work to be done in some ways, the integration of it into everyday life I found to be really admirable. All the signs for basically everything being in both English and Maori, and just the mythology and the stories that are told in the kind of Maori tradition are very prevalent in everyone's kind of mind. So it is really celebrated, which is really brilliant to see.
The last time we spoke really briefly was for Yesterday as well, which I had such a great time speaking to so many people involved in that film, and one person in particular who I didn't speak to who I bumped into at a music festival, who I spoke to at length about it, and it was Bobby Carlisle, and and he was hearing him talk about how this whole kind of role, I'm not going to say, it's weird because so many people saw the film and they will know who he plays in this film, but it's on part of me as well almost doesn't want to say, in case there are people watching this who are like, what? Because it's such a magical moment. But it was really lovely talking to him about how important it was to get it right, because this individual who was a living person, it was such a big deal to him. But one of the things that he said was that you didn't see him until you filmed. Is that right?
Obviously, the makeup for John was kind of a very precise thing that they were working on for a while. And there was a moment where Bobby came to the makeup trailer whilst we were on location somewhere else, I think, for the makeup tests. But they put up this dividing wall in the makeup truck so that I couldn't see him, because what Danny wanted to capture was that moment where Jack sees John for the first time. He wanted that to be a real thing. And though, of course, I knew who I was going to see, I had no idea what to expect in terms of what he would actually look like. And it was kind of, it was absolutely mind-blowing, to be honest, because it was so amazing, the work they did on that.
Beautiful part
I think back to that day. It was 1 or 2 days we were on that location filming those scenes, and it was in my mind it feels like a sort of precious thing that just sits on its own. It felt like something. It was a special place, a beautiful place of on the seaside, and it did genuinely feel like I spent the day with John Lennon. It was really wild.
With Yesterday, with the kind of the singing side of it and stuff like that, did that involve like a lot of prep, or was that something that you were kind of confident with straight away, or was that something you almost had to in terms of that, when you talk about pushing yourself and
No, there was a lot of pushing that had to be done. From the very beginning, from the minute I got the email, that was just from my agent. That was just like, it's an untitled working title project. Danny Boyle's directing. We have no other details.
Wow.
But you have to sing it was very specific instructions. Was like, there's a monologue from a play. You have to do that, and you have to sing a Coldplay song of your choice. And I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, because it was originally going to be Chris Martin, wasn't it?
Chris Martin was going to be Ed Sheeran. Yeah.
But it wouldn't have worked. Now when you think about it, it wouldn't have worked as well as Ed does.
It was like, always going to be Ed.
You know, things are meant to happen for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And so from the beginning, that was a slow kind of, you know, to go back to the onion metaphor, but it was a slow kind of peeling back of those layers of me kind of, you know, stuff that I'd hidden away for a while. I'd loved singing when I was a kid, but hadn't done it for a long time. So it was nice to kind of reveal that part of myself and be vulnerable with it. And then, yeah, 2 months of prep before we started shooting, where we built this room that was like Jack's bedroom, built at the office in London. And I just spent 2 months there working with Ardem Ilhan, who's a great musician, and he kind of worked with me, and we put the songs together, because of course we weren't just doing direct kind of covers, we were doing our own thing with them. So it was really, really fun, challenging, and but so rewarding, you know.
Yeah.
We all believe we'd run into the burning building. But until we feel that heat, we can never know. You do. You chose to die instead of giving up your colleagues. That test you passed? Not everybody does. Welcome to the afterlife.
I've got to ask you about Tenet. I don't know, you probably can't, I mean, I don't even know if you're allowed to even say the word Tenet to me, but...
Yeah, no, I can't even, like,
I love, there's
someone with a gun over there.
Shooting backwards, catching the bullet so he's not firing.
Yeah,
there we go, see? There's a great tagline in one of the trailers, says, don't try to understand it, you've got to feel it. And it's kind of like, that's almost like, okay, that's actually the film as well. It's like, don't try and understand it, you've got to feel it. I love Christopher Nolan's films, and I love how he just, you know, as a film fan, he absolutely just pulls out parts of your brain that you didn't even know that you had, or it's kind of like, come on, work. You've got a name, at least I see on the, you know, on the information. A lot of the actors, the characters don't even have names yet, so, you know, it's like, at least you've got a name.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great to work with him, to work with someone who I've admired his work for a long time, because he makes cinema a scale unlike anyone else. You know, he makes things happen for real. There's barely any CGI at all.
Wow.
In any of his movies. And, you know, like people have seen in the trailer, there's that big explosion with a plane, and that's not fake. That's, you know, a real thing that happened. So it was amazing to be on those sets and work with him, and yeah, I'm excited to see it. I'm waiting with bated breath.
It feels like the perfect filmmaker, if and when it happens, to be almost reopening cinema.
Yes, absolutely. And it is, you know, I do like that kind of, that don't try and understand it, feel it thing, because I feel like that's definitely the way his films work. Is he presents these amazing ideas, these complex, layered ideas, but because so much of it is character driven, you can just go on the emotional journey and enjoy the spectacle.
Yeah.
And he has a way of layering the complexities of his stories that makes them really digestible, but also still very complex. It's a very unique talent.
All I have for you is a word. Tenet. It'll open the right doors, some of the wrong ones too.
You have
have to start looking at the world in a new way.
Don't try to understand it. Feel it.
What'll happen here?
Hasn't happened yet.
Well, listen, it's really great to chat to you, and
same.
I'm really looking forward to watching the sort of second half of the Luminaries. I'm gripped by the first episode, to be honest. Really, just great writing, great performances. So yeah, really appreciate your time, Himesh, and glad to see you looking well. Take care.
Cheers.
Stay safe. Thanks, mate. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Brilliant young man, Himesh Patel. Brilliant actor. Really excited for that in particular. Tenet. I can't wait. Right, last but by no means least, the wonderful Amelia Warner, who has been on my podcast before. We had a wonderful collection of female composers who came down to the BFI to sit and talk to us about their work. Carly Paradis, Emily Luminaries, and also Amelia. And what's brilliant about Amelia and a number of different composers is that they don't just wait to work on productions. They are releasing their own music in between productions. And Carly and Emily are the same. Isabel Waller-Bridge as well. There's a whole collection of them. In fact, Pinner Toprak, who is this week's guest on the podcast, she's talking about all manner of things. She works across gaming. She did the music for Fortnite, Captain Marvel, amongst many other things. So please do go and listen to this week's podcast with Pinner. She is brilliant. And it's her 200th episode. Woohoo! But back to Amelia. And she's released this beautiful EP called Haven. So it's got 5 tracks on it. It's out now. And go and listen to it because it's really beautiful. And it gives you a really wonderful insight into the different musicalities that different instruments can instill and the emotions they also convey as well. So Millie's absolutely adorable. I love spending time with her, and it was really great to get her to link up via Zoom to talk about her new EP, which is available now. It's called Haven, and this is the lovely Amelia Warner. Millie, thank you for coming and chatting to me about this. I was listening to it again this morning, driving back from a Pilates class, and it's I love how each different song on this EP put you in a different frame of mind. It's really lovely. Each one's got a lovely different feel to it.
That's good.
Tell me a bit about the kind of background to putting these 5 songs together. And was the plan always that this would be an EP, or has this kind of situation meant that you've had to do it differently? Tell me a little bit about it.
I think the plan was always to do an EP. And it was always going to be around kind of, somewhere between like 4 or 5 tracks. And then luckily I recorded it last year.
Oh, wow.
So I recorded it a long time ago, and it was just, I'd written some of it kind of just when I was pregnant with my third. And I was really wanting to record it, but was feeling so ill. And I had the worst sickness for some reason with that baby. And so then we kind of kept pushing, kept delaying it, and then I had the baby, and then there was just that like logistical thing of like, when are we going to record it? How are we going to find a studio? Should I go to London? Do I take the baby? It's just everything becomes just really difficult with a newborn. Yeah. And but during this time, like we moved into our new house. I had the baby at home. It just became, and I had this kind of incredible connection to this space and to the house, and wrote a couple more tracks. And then we just, I was talking to a friend of mine who I work with as well, and about trying to, arrange time to record and go up to London. And he was just like, do it here. He was like, bring everyone here. This is like, we've got this beautiful kind of room that has amazing acoustics. And so that's what we did. And it was just incredible. So we recorded it all at home. And because of that, we kind of, really used the space, and we recorded as much like ambient sound as we could as well, and the birds and the just the kind of, I wanted to try and capture some form of like just the sound of that room. Yeah. And we like mic'd it up so that, for the first track, Drawing Room, you're actually hearing it from the corridor outside, so it feels like you're kind of walking, you're about to enter the room. Yeah. And then for When We Came Home, it's like you're walking into this space. And I kind of wanted it to feel like, when I did my previous EP was called Visitors, the kind of story behind that was an empty house, and it was all of these previous spirits and people who'd lived in the house. And I guess Haven was like the full house, and the house with life and people and love. And so I just wanted to try and create that. And then it's just kind of ended up being a weird, lovely, strange thing that we've kind of released it during a time that everybody's at home, and that hopefully everybody's got some sort of connection to their kind of home and haven and safety and comfort. And so I feel like it's just kind of coming out, it's all kind of gone full circle in a funny way.
Yeah, it's so that was one of the things I wanted to ask about with Drawing Room, is that kind of how beautiful the piano's recorded, because it's kind of almost like, it really reminds me of almost like being a kid and listening at the door of hearing kind of something going on that you want to kind of go in and see what it is and press it. But it's such a kind of clever idea to give a piece of music a different emotion and a different feel, rather than it just simply miking the piano up as you would normally, so that it sounds kind of, you know, that kind of crisp and clean way. This adds so much texture to it. It's beautiful. Yeah, I really like that. And we recorded it kind of two ways. But I just love, I have a similar, I kind of have a memory, and I don't even know what it's from, but I think it's school, and it's like the kind of practice rooms when you hear piano and people playing, but it would kind of, you know, like waft on the air, and I just love that like distant piano sound. And I wanted it to be kind of like this tantalizing like sense of like, you know, of a piano somewhere. It's so funny because just in terms of where you were in terms of, you know, kind of expecting writing this, because I've got Orlando Weeks on this show episode as well, and his new record was written, apart from one song, was written about impending fatherhood, and his whole kind of journey through his mind about what that was going to involve for him. So there's a lovely kind of, you know, weird synergy between those two different. Oh my God, I love that. I love that record. I was listening to it yesterday. It's just amazing. You've got beautiful horns on a track as well on the EP, which is really gorgeous. And is that a sort of wonderful part of the journey of the pieces, is that working out, because do you write everything on piano and then they bring on different? Yeah, exactly. I write it all on the piano, and then I kind of knew beforehand that I wanted to use brass, and previously, kind of on my other two EPs, I've usually always used strings, and I kind of am more comfortable writing for strings, and it just tends to be where I always go. And then when I was scoring Mary Shelley a couple of years ago, it was the first time that I really got to use brass and got to write for brass, and I just loved it, and I just kind of, it was like this whole amazing new thing, and so I had this idea that I wanted to try and use brass kind of as strings in a way, so as kind of in the way of like almost as pads and as these kind of warm things for the piano to sit on, and which was and I loved it. It was definitely you know, it was different, and there were a few times that I was like, oh, wish I could just get some strings in this. But I was kind of really determined that it would be piano and brass, and we didn't use anything else. And I love, and for me, brass as well, there's such a kind of connection with your tummy, and it's just this warmth that you can't find in any other way. So I really loved it. Are you working on stuff at the minute? Are you being creative in this crazy world? And I kind of, definitely, it's been like up and down, and I've kind of been like oscillating between feeling like really productive and really creative, and I'm like, this is amazing, and just being really frustrated and not doing anything. But definitely the last 6 weeks, I'd say, I've just been in a really good zone, and I've been writing. I've been writing this a musical that I've kind of been wanting to do for years, and it's one of those things that I just never thought I'd really, you know, have the time but it's just been a really it's been perfect to have this one thing to kind of return to. So I've been really enjoying doing that. It's been great. When you say musical, what kind of, because there's so many type, you know, I mean, when I think musical, West Side Story straight away. I'm like that.
incredible, of course.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is more of a kind of, it's for children. So it's like
wow.
like a kind of gothic fairy tale. It's like a very strange, and it's based on a book. I won't say it because I haven't fully got everything in place, but it's based on a book that I was obsessed with when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like urban fairy tale. And it's kind of dark and weird, and but I think it'd be great. But it's what's been really nice is I've been able to like include my kids in it a bit and kind of like play them songs and like see if they're kind of into it, and they're really into it. All of the ideas.
Great.
They keep asking me like, so what happens with this and what happens with that, and so I've got like this brilliant kind of little barometer of, you know.
Yeah, you got your audience right there. That's brilliant. It's been lovely as well that you've been able to have some beautiful visuals to accompany the tracks on Haven as well, and just the most perfect marriage as well, this dancer.
Oh my God, she's just like amazing.
Was that a case of just giving her the music and her interpreting it, or was it?
Yeah,
wow,
totally. I know, and she was amazing. She's one of my best friends. It's her daughter, and she's like this beautiful dancer, and I had this idea. I just kind of wanted her in the room to dance, but then I don't know the language of dance, and you know, I'm just saying really, you know, unhelpful things like just be free, you know. And but luckily she just was, and she just like, she listened to the music I think for about a week, but she was completely kind of you know, it was different every time. It was completely instinctive and expressive, and it was just so beautiful. And I kept thinking, I was like, oh, maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a couple of, you know, little clips that we can kind of edit, and we'll use 10 seconds and we'll use 10 seconds. But then we were filming, and then we just like, there was never like a reason to cut, because she just kept moving and she kept doing all these like incredible things of beautiful shapes. And so we ended up with like, you know, 4 full-length videos from it.
Wow.
Because she was just so amazing. And it was like a really sunny day, and so it kind of all just, and I do feel like it kind of brought the whole thing together once we got Nell dancing, and you know, in the house, in the room, and then the painting on the wall is the painting that we use for the artwork. And so it just felt like this kind of completion of like of thoroughly kind of using that space.
It feels like as well it's a beautifully kind of personal record in terms of, like you say, you know, the artwork is an artwork that hangs in your house. You filmed the video there, you know, and talking about your, you know, where you were when you were writing it and all that kind of thing. And it's wonderful that you're able to express things that way, but it not be intrusive on you in a way. Do you know what I mean? Where it's kind of, you can sort of write about the things that are closest to you and they inspire you and you share them, but it not being intrusive. That's a wonderful thing that, you know, you're able to do with it, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And everyone can take their own thing from it, you know, and it becomes theirs almost, because it is that kind of thing, I think, when you release music, is that it's no longer yours really, it belongs to whoever's listening to it. And
absolutely, that's so true, and I love that. I really like that. I think that's such a kind of, I really enjoy the idea of people feeling like connected to it, and interpreting it however they however they respond to it is right. There's no kind of wrong way, is there?
Yeah. So what do you have a plan of with the musical when it's going to be?
No, I mean, it's like early, it's like, you know, embryo stages. I just kind of want to get it, you know, to a good place, and then I'll work out what to do with it after that.
Before we go, you brilliantly kind of shout about great stuff that you're reading, you're listening to, that kind of thing. So can I have 3 recommendations from you, please? Whether that be, but you do, I'll keep talking whilst you think about it, because you do these great playlists on a Sunday as well, which are like that. Oh, what am I going to listen to today? Let's see what Millie's put up today. It's brilliant. It makes me totally lazy. It's like, oh, it's lovely.
Do you know what? I've been listening to so many. I mean, it's not like, because of what I'm doing, I'm listening to like a lot of musicals at the moment. Yeah. And I've been listening to Sarah Bareilles all the time, who I've only just kind of discovered, and she did the music for Waitress, and she's amazing. So I've been listening to her, And then the last kind of book that I read that really kind of shook me was Clover Stroud, My Sleepless Nights, which is My Wild and Sleepless Nights.
Yeah.
Which is like the most kind of beautifully, brutally honest, you know, I've ever heard anyone talk about being a mother.
Yeah.
She's just the most amazing writer. So I really, really loved that. What else have I been trying to think?
Watching anything?
What have we been watching? We're in a bit of a kind of lull. We just watched Hollywood. Which
is it good?
I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I kind of heard really bad things about it and then loved it. I just thought it was so much fun, like proper escapism.
Yeah.
And like really interesting, a really interesting idea. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And yeah, music-wise, I'm completely. I mean, the Orlando Weeks, I was been listening to a lot. I love that.
Really great.
And yeah,
That's
really,
good.
really great.
That's 4 things. That's plenty. That's a good couple of weeks worth there. That's amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, take care, lovely.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Millie. Really appreciate your time, as do with Himesh and Orlando. All those things are available for you to view and listen now. Quickening, Orlando's album, Haven, Amelia's EP, and Luminaries is on the BBC now, with Tenet just around the corner in cinemas. Fingers crossed. As I said before, it's our 200th episode of the podcast this week with Pinner Top Rack, so please do go and listen to that, subscribe to that and to this. There'll be a button somewhere here. Please do hit it, please do comment, and please do tell your friends. Very much look forward to catching up with you guys again next week, where I'm going to be talking about this brilliant new film called Eurovision, that stars Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, and it's very funny indeed. Until then, take care, stay safe.